President and Secretary General respectively, and another one is led by the Lord Mayor of Kampala, Erias Lukwago, also happens to be the outgoing Vice President of that political party in Buganda region. Now that faction is based at the base of Dr. Kiza Besigye, the first president of this political party, that is Katonga, hence the name tag, the Katonga faction. Now, towards the end of last week, both camps talked tough, with the Nankumbi's faction scoffing at the move by the Katonga side to suspend its leaders from office. Today, there were other developments from both camps. At Najanankumbi, a list of candidates nominated for elections selected for the 6th of next month was issued, while we also heard from the Katonga faction actually announcing their immediate plans going forward. So tonight, we host the leader of the Katonga faction to enlighten us more about their plans and also to discuss other issues that have emerged recently as the party eventually split up for the second time in its history. Good evening and welcome to Spectrum, Honorable Erias Lukwago, the acting president of the Katonga faction of the FDC, vice president of the FDC in Uganda region, outgoing, and the Lord Mayor of Kampala.
Thank you. Kenneth, I hesitate to call you Lukwago, lest I will be accused of sitting with my brother.
There's some realities that you can't run away from.
So it's a Lukwago versus Lukwago. Anyway, I'm pleased to be here, and I would like to salute all of you, the listeners out there, particularly the people of Kampala, Ugandans at large, and FDC members, with a call that all we are doing, please embrace it. It's the good of it's the interest of the country. It's a common good. It's meant to address the critical challenges afflicting this country.
All right, let's begin looking at you yourself. You left the Democratic Party, ran as an independent in Kampala, and then found a home in FDC where they were talking about one Uganda, one people. Those people were united. Finally, you ended up at Najanankumbi, and from the voices we have heard from there, you are the trouble causer.
It's laughable because the same people who are making those accusations know it better, that the root cause of this problem cannot be myself. It can't be Lukwago. I'm being treated as a scapegoat, and that's the reason I'm being turned into a punching bag. But on the flip side, I would like to ask if indeed they approve of what Mao did, because if they are saying in the standoff we had in DP before I fell off with Mao, that standoff, there was right and wrong. So if they are saying Mao was on the right side and I was wrong, then they are vindicating us that actually they are in the footsteps of Honorable Norbert Mao, dragging the party to the NRM, because Mao has officially consummated a marriage with NRM. He had an occasion, a very big one, at Kaunda Grounds in Egulu, where he was welcomed to the party by General Kaguta Museveni, and at that function, the chief guest was Museveni's brother, General Salim Saleh. And the flowery statements they made about Mao joining NRM clearly indicated that it didn't happen overnight. It's a process they had pursued for some good time. So if their judgment is that I was wrong to fight Mao, then I leave it to the public to judge. But I want to unequivocally state I shouldn't be turned into a scapegoat. If anything, by the way, do I have the capacity to cause all those tremors in DP, to cause the tremors in the FDC? Do I have that capacity?
Well, let's focus a little bit on the FDC. And I would say, yes, you have the capacity because you allied with Dr. Kiza Besigye, who in some circles is looked as FDC he is the party and the party is himself.
That is your judgment.
Well, it's a no,
He
well-known
stepped
fact
down
that
from the leadership of the party.
Dr. Besigye remains very famous than even the political party itself.
But he resigned his leadership from the party way back in 2012, over a decade ago. And he has not been at the center of the leadership of the party since then. So why are you dragging him in to say that he's the party and the party is him?
I'm not dragging him because, let me give you an example. We know very well the Honorable Amriat is in the office partly because of Dr. Kiza Besigye. We know very well the fight which was there, which ended up with the elimination of Major General Mugisha Muntu from
Dr.
the party.
Besigye he had a legitimate right to support Poa.
And Dr. Besigye supported
as a member.
Power. Yes. Now, he has supported you to go and take over the power in Najanankumbi. Hence, what the other camp is actually saying, you are the trouble causer.
I wish they could be honest and true to themselves to tell Ugandans the source of the problem. They know it. It's a matter that is well within the public domain. What triggered the uproar in the party, the tremors you are having or you are grappling with right now? You all know it. It's the dirty money. So how am I involved in that dirty money? In all the statements that have come through, where is my name mentioned in that scandal? Where? I'm not at all involved. Even when the National Council deemed it necessary to put in place a probe committee headed by the Honorable Nabuiso, I wasn't one of the suspects. Neither was I even summoned as a witness that I had information which was vital for their probe. Nothing. So I wasn't in any way involved, and I didn't feature anywhere in their report. They even explained how the money was shared, how they attempted even to stash away this money and keep part of it at the home of Dr. Kiza Besigye. And Dr. Besigye is on record explaining what transpired subsequently, how he tracked the money to establish that actually the source was State House and Bank of Uganda, then State House, and eventually at his home, and how the Nandalas retrieved it from him. And I am not mentioned anywhere. So how do I become the trouble causer? Did I in any way accompany my brother Poa or Nandala to wherever they went and picked the money from? Did I? Was I in any way involved in disbursement of the same? Why should I be turned now into a scapegoat? This is what is really baffling me. So the long and short of it is that my brothers should own up. They know the truth. And the civility would demand under those circumstances, you consider and say mea culpa, and then you hand over the mantle. It's the only logical thing one would do in a civilized country.
All right. Now that we have the two factions, we have one in Najanankumbi.
For us, we know one party.
And there's one in Katonga, in Nakasero.
For us, we know only one political party.
Well, we can't run away from the fact that there are some people talking from Najanankumbi, where the party headquarters is.
The renegades.
And your group is also at Katonga in Nakasero, also purporting to speak on behalf of the party. Those are the two facts, and we can't run away from them. Let's look at your plans. You are now the acting president of that faction which sits in Katonga. How do we deal with this impasse that has befallen your party? Do you want to move forward with a united party, or you're shaping your own direction as a faction?
You definitely have not digressed from our vision and mission of having a united party, of building a united country. And our motto has not changed. It's still one Uganda, one people, one Uganda. It's all about that. And right now we are still swamped in what you would call logistical issues or matters, housekeeping matters of sorts, trying to put a few things together to get off the ground. You know, it's a crisis matter. And given the fact that we are given only 6 months within which to fix the crisis, so you can have an idea on the kind of work before us on our table. So basically that's what we are doing right now, putting a few things together. We have rolled out today the kind of, an action-packed program leading up to the first sitting of council, NEC, which is going to be on Thursday. And in that meeting is when we are going to consider the issue of the road, because within the 6 months, we are tasked by the delegates conference to process the leadership structure elections right from the grassroots up to the national delegates conference within that period of 6 months. And that is a tall order. But away from that, the broader things we are focusing on is getting the party back on rail. We have time and again said it had been derailed, and we have that Herculean task of pushing it back onto the rail so that the caravan can continue to the promised land. Because the original mission of the party was and still remains liberation of the country, hence the name Forum for Democratic Change, a platform where all forces of change would coalesce to usher in the much needed change and deliver this country to the promised land. But the critical element is restoration of people's sovereign authority, getting the power to determine the destiny of this country from the military leadership we have in the country today into civilian hands, so that the people of Uganda, for once, they have the power, the authority to determine their destiny. And that is critical, because we have time and again we've said we have a family rule, and that's what we are contending with right now.
But what we know on record is we have elections after 5 years, and Ugandans have been voting for a president and therefore determining their destination. And you have actually been part of those elections, and you've several times been elected as a Lord Mayor.
Tell me, in all those countries.
So it would be strange for you to actually say we have a military government.
Oh my God. Tell me one country where you have had coups and counter coups, like what is happening in West Africa right now, where they have had no elections.
But anyway, that's not our discussion of today.
Okay.
Very quickly, let's go back to NEC. You say you're going to have a NEC sitting this particular week. Thursday, if I might have heard you right.
Yes, Thursday this week, yes.
So one would ask, who is sitting in that NEC? Because it seems now the party is operating with two structures. The National Kumbi side held elections, and they merged with delegates who are going to attend the delegates conference on the 6th. And you also seem to be having another set of delegates. So who is attending your NEC meeting?
The members who were duly elected by the party structures.
In which elections?
We have had the cycle. The last one was in 2017. Save for myself, the rest of the members were elected by the delegates conference of 2017. All these ones were going to be there, including the national chairman who is presiding over the NEC and presides over National Council and the Delegates Conference, the Ambassador Birigwa, and all his vice chairpersons, the Honorable Salam Musumba, Kajinda, and others. They were all elected by the National Delegates Conference of 2017. Myself, I came in through the window provided under Article 30 of the party constitution.
Is that what Poa was referring to as the ventilator?
Of course, but it is within the parameters of the party constitution that in a situation where there is a vacancy, just like in any other political formations, I think that is the practice, only that in DP it is the National Council. But there is a provision in the party constitution that where a situation arises and there is a vacancy in any positions on NEC, and you cannot convene, the party cannot convene the delegates conference, then NEC is seized with that mandate to fill that particular vacancy. That's what happened in 2020 when I was elected by NEC pursuant to those provisions of Article 30 of the Constitution to be the deputy president, and subsequently in the National Delegates Conference held last week, 19th, I was assigned the duty of the acting president after suspending the party president.
All right. So
these are the members of NEC.
So let's look at the agenda of your NEC meeting. What exactly are you going to be doing?
A couple of things we are going to deal with. One, we have to roll out the roadmap. After the suspension of Honorable Dr. Kabamwenda Boniface as the de facto electoral commissioner, chief electoral commissioner, the Honorable Kabazuguluka was assigned that duty, and right now he is preparing together with the other commissioners, Agongson and others. They are preparing a roadmap for us, which is going to be debated by NEC, leading up to the National Delegates Conference, because the one that is being touted, of course, is not known to the party. So the lawful one, the legitimate one, is going to be announced shortly after the sitting of NEC of Thursday. That's when we shall be announcing to the membership the date when we shall be having the lawful delegates conference. So that is one of the critical issues we have. But also, we're also going to discuss modalities of how we are going to work out a network to build the synergies or harmonize our operations with other change-seeking forces. Of course, we have political parties. If we are to form a front or what, we have the CP, we have UPC, that is Warubiri, not Akena. We have DP, that is the Vaigandi team, and also NUP, JEMA, and a couple of others. Of course, also, we intend also to liaise with the civil society and religious leaders in the pursuit of that particular agenda. And this is one of the issues we are focusing on so much.
What's the agenda of that? Is it a coalition or something? What exactly are you trying to build?
Of course, I've mentioned the challenge, the elephant in the room. You call it the political challenge of the day. How do we usher in a new dispensation that engenders free expression and competition of ideas, and also empowers the people to decide their destiny? What you are disputing, for us, we are saying today, people do not have authority to determine who governs them, how they should be governed, contrary to the provisions of Article 1 of the Constitution, Article 1, Clause 4. So we are saying the people have been disenfranchised, the people of Uganda have no authority, and the ballot today carries no significance. Of course, it's just a mere piece of paper which cannot meaningfully cause the change we want. And we are saying, for how long shall we continue like this? So basically, that is the challenge of the day. And I said earlier on that how do we deal with the family rule? How do we have rule of law as opposed to family rule? How do we have constitutionalism as opposed to rule by law. Because right now what we have in place is rule by law. So gun rule for that matter. So how do we do away with gun rule and go to civilian rule? Basically, that is the crux of the matter. And we are threatened with the succession agenda again. So because for us, we want a transition to a truly democratic dispensation, but the regime is orchestrating, is now plotting a succession agenda. We have also to scatter that, to stave it off.
Well, recent history shows that as groups, you always agree that there is need for change in the country, and you announce that you're going to be working together. But the real challenge comes when the time comes for you to actually pick candidates.
You're mixing up quite a number of things.
So there's nothing new you're going to do.
No,
same thing.
No.
You change-seeking forces have been doing over the last few elections.
We may be talking at cross purpose. You see,
is that coalition for election?
Exactly what you are talking about. The attempts that we have had before are in that direction of electoral alliance. We're not talking about electoral alliance. You see, we have different phenomena. We have always explained, depending on actually the objective of that particular platform. Are you forming an electoral alliance? Are you forming a front, a political front? Are you forming a movement of sorts? I'm not talking about NRM. Are you forming a merger? What is it that you are trying to create? You get it? So we are saying what we need is not an electoral alliance, because it's only an electoral alliance where you are talking about a solo candidate. It's an electoral alliance. When you are talking about a coalition, for example, you are talking about power sharing. But when you talk about a front, you can call it a front or a movement. You are seeking to galvanize all your efforts, aggregate your efforts, and push a common agenda, in this case, to usher in the change that the country needs, the country yearns for.
And the question is,
it's not about choosing a candidate. How do
you want to usher in that change that you're talking about? Because the constitutional way that we know that we are following currently is elections, and we expect elections in 2026.
Obviously, we are not advocating for anarchy. Neither are we talking about use of unconstitutional means of causing change. And you are wrong to say that the Constitution provides only one option.
No, I didn't say
but that's what you are saying.
I said,
yes, that's how I understood you.
No, I actually said the constitutional way that we know currently is through
this
elections.
Is exactly what I'm saying.
And in 2026, there is an election coming up.
I'm telling you, the Constitution provides for other options away from elections.
Depending on the circumstances.
Definitely. Look at Article 3 of the Constitution and what it says. Article 3, specifically Clause 5, and Clause 4, 5, and 6. What do they say? That you can, actually, for once, we have had several constitutions since independence. But for the first time in the history of this country, the CA delegates who assembled to write the new constitution inserted the phenomenon of resistance within the constitution. You go into Article 3, you'll find the term, the phrase, resist. That it's an obligation on the part of all able-bodied Ugandan of majority age 18 and above to resist any form of unconstitutional tendency, even where one attempts to overthrow the constitution. So the moment you see a sitting regime veering off the constitutional path, you have there is a command that you should rise to the occasion, deal with the situation using whatever means possible as long as those means are not prohibited under any law. For example, use of the gun is prohibited. And we're not talking about use of the gun to cause change. For heaven's sake, actually, that would be the antithesis of our philosophy, because ours is non-violence, and we don't want to be violent. We have always said the violence begets violence, and we have decried that time and again. We are saying no. Let's use non-violent means of ushering in change. This has been attempted in a number of democracies. In India, it has worked, South Africa, and elsewhere. We're not even talking about a coup, no. Because with a coup, it's just a change of guards, what Museveni talked about when he had just assumed the power in 1986. We don't want that.
All right.
Yeah.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. My guest this evening is the Honorable Erias Lukwago, the acting president of the Katonga faction of the FDC party. He's the vice president, he's the outgoing vice president of that party in Buganda region, but he's also the Lord Mayor of Kampala. Let's go for a break. Thank you very much for staying with us on Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. We are looking at the immediate plans of the Katonga faction of the FDC party, and my guest today is the Honorable Erias Lukwago. He's the acting president of that particular faction. He's also the outgoing vice president of the party in Buganda region. He's also our Lord Mayor here in Kampala. We have heard about the initial plans. They are going to have a NEC meeting on Thursday where they will be discussing a number of issues, including their own version of the internal party elections. But also we know now that they will also be discussing modalities of how to cooperate with other change-seeking forces out there. And we have heard from him already on what they want to achieve, although it's not yet clear whether this particular coalition may not result into an election coalition like we have seen happening in other countries. And some people were wondering, will you not eventually become an election coalition in this kind of group where you are working, and then suddenly the interests of the different forces in that coalition will probably collide, like we saw with the TDA, and no success?
At times, one thing...
Why are you confident that this time it will work out?
You see, in activism, I must tell you, yes, you may have a clear roadmap, but it's difficult to have a clear script on what's going to happen next. That is not to say you do not plan. Yes, you can plan. But the tendency is that one thing leads to the other. All you have to do is to do what actually you ought to do under those circumstances. So for you to suggest that probably along the way, if it starts as a front or a cooperation of sorts or a movement, then eventually it can morph into something else like an electoral alliance. That is something that I can't, of course, focus on right now.
Because in there you're bringing different political actors.
Why I'm saying this, supposing you are pushing for regime change now away from elections, and it doesn't happen between now and the time you will be having the new election cycle. And
will you go into the elections then?
Definitely, we have always said we participate in elections to continue advancing the struggle. We use elections as a tool for change, not as a tool for struggle. Rather, I want to correct that. As a tool for struggle, for liberation. Now, not necessarily that we have faith in the outcome, that they would post results that would change government. That it can happen that General Kaguta Museveni can be removed from power by a mere piece of paper. That cannot happen.
Well, there are some observers who actually say, and that exactly is the problem, from the onset, you discourage people from embracing an election process, but then eventually you take part and complain that your people did not vote. You're not giving the voters confidence to actually take part in a process where you're eventually going to participate. Isn't that not self-defeat?
You see, that hypothesis is premised on the assumption that actually Museveni wins genuinely, and that there is a voter apathy. People are discouraged from participating in elections, and eventually those who believe in Museveni, they go and vote, and he wins overwhelmingly.
Well, we've been seeing the voter turnout actually shrinking over the years.
Let me tell you this.
Look at the number of people actually turn up to vote, and
probably I want to debunk that.
They could be your supporters who heed to your information.
Mbabazi, Mama Mbabazi came up with that narrative, that philosophy. Actually, his was scientific and mathematical. He had lots of postulations, different scenarios he postulated, and said, look here, there are those who are on the extreme, that Dr. Besigye was only appealing to the extremists. And there are people who are on the fence who are saying, well, we are tired of the status quo, but we do not understand Besigye's politics, and that they were a little ambivalent about the direction they would take in that scheme of things. But he got disillusioned at the end of the day. He ended up in that election, if you have the statistics, I'm sorry, with all due respect, I hold him in high regard. He scored 1%. With that approach, that please, no, let's mobilize people, let's go turn up and vote in big numbers. He got 1%. What happened to the people who were on the fence and they were waiting for Mbabas of sorts, who was not that confrontational, who encouraged the people to go and vote, who mobilized the people and said, please, this is now the time. What happened? How did he end up getting 1%? You see, the results you get are allotted. And I use this word deliberately. They are like shares. So now they are like shares on a stock exchange. The chairman electoral commission allots.
So when it comes to Honorable Mama Mbabazi, you want to believe that he actually got only 1%.
Just what was allotted to him. This is the message I'm giving you. The person.
Is it not possible that his votes were also rigged? Like
definitely, he was rigged.
So is it not possible that he was rigged more than the others in the race, knowing that
no doubt about
he could bring on board fresh voters?
It could be the case. You see, with the Museveni elections, you cannot tell with the figures. The mathematics of Mr. Museveni is quite defeating. You can never understand it. But you get it?
How come?
So Biabakama can do anything.
How come the same government, the same electoral commission, but you keep winning in Kampala?
This is exactly what we have always explained. That when you get in some electoral areas, like in the case of the general elections that happened in 2021, these recent elections, where NOP got over 50 MPs in Buganda, the vigilance was too much, too much, that when people came out to say that, look, we are fighting. This is the philosophy we are telling you. People joining the election with that mentality of fighting, not necessarily having the belief that so and so is going to be declared a winner. There is the way they also recoil. I mean, the vicious forces. They go back onto the drawing board and say, let's carve out this kind of enclave may be troublesome for us. Let's leave it. That Kampala Wakiso axis, no. This time round, I think they carved off most of the parts of Uganda and said, considering what had transpired on 18th, and you remember the 18th November incidents?
Isn't that downplaying?
18th and 19th, you remember?
Downplaying the effort.
The Chabranyi protests? No. You see,
because you seem to suggest that their victory was actually pre-planned. Their victory in Uganda, because you said
no. This is what I'm saying. The rigging machinery is deployed according to their mathematics. This is what I'm telling you.
So they say
they realize and say now
let's allow Erias Lukwago to win.
This area rigging may be true. They attempted here in Kampala, you don't forget, in 2011. And it was catastrophic on their part. Because we entered into the election with that approach of saying we are going to fight you in this election. We shall win by defiance. We fought and fought and fought and forced a cancellation of the election midway. It was around midday when Badi Chigundu cancelled the election and said, no, we can no longer proceed. There were fights everywhere. It was not a question of people just coming to massively to cast their votes and they go away. They said, no way, we are coming to fight you. Buganda Road here, the ballot boxes had been stuffed in the morning. They were full. Bati Valley, so many places, Chebando, Kabowa, everywhere. And it was fire everywhere. By noon, they had no choice but to call off the election. So this is the kind of momentum we want to generate by coming up with this coalition to say, even if we do not achieve the object of changing government by now, using Article 3 of the Constitution, because which is lawful and legitimate, and we enter into a new election cycle, are we prepared to take the bull by the horns? Are we prepared to deal with the big elephant in the room? Are we prepared to confront the rigging machinery of NRM? That is the thing.
All right. Let's continue looking at your formation, the Katonga faction. We know there are issues that will proceed in court, and eventually court might determine who are the rightful leaders of the FDC. And some people have been wondering and saying, is it not possible that probably at a certain point you will turn into another political entity, maybe a political party? Already we know Dr. Besigye has a people's government. There's front for that other front where he is the leader and you are the deputy. What happens just in case the courts of law don't see it your way?
I don't want to be speculative.
Well, it's a possibility, and you must be thinking about it.
No, I would be jumping the gun. Right now, we are putting the matters before God, and we have laid out the grounds which we believe are very, very strong and compelling on the parts of courts of law, if properly addressing their minds to the law and the facts before them, to come up with an appropriate decision to address the stalemate, the crisis as of now. And all this is grounded on the party constitution, which clearly defines the roles and duties of different offices and organs of the party. For example, the Delegates Conference of 6th. It's very clear. And even if you ask any of those guys from Najana, Poa-Nandala, or Toteleboka, you ask them, who has the mandate to call the National Delegates? It's the chairperson. Look at Article 28 of the Constitution. It's the chairperson, Ambassador Virigwa, to convene and preside over meetings of the National Council, National Delegates Conference. That's in black and white. And when it comes to electing members of the National Executive Committee where I sit, whose mandate is it? It is the Delegates Conference under Article 23, Clause 3 of the party constitution. So you are calling a seminar summoned by or convened by the Honorable Totoleboka Bamwinda, the de facto Chief Electoral Commissioner. The meeting of Saturday 6th is a seminar, and they are purporting to arrange elections to be conducted, elections of members of the National Executive Committee at a seminar. That is quite obvious. So we thought these are very straightforward matters which have to be resolved one or the other. Let me also use this opportunity to correct the mistake I made earlier on. It was factually wrong to say that the current members of the National Executive Committee were elected in 2017. No, it was 2015. 2017, it was only the party president. And at that time, there were arrangements to harmonize or to synchronize those elections so that they are all held at the same time. Other members of National Executive Committee, together with the president, That's why Poa was supposed to cut his tenure short by 2 years, because 2017, the next election cycle would be 2020. But unfortunately, there was a supervening factor, that is an act of God, COVID set in, and then they had to postpone the election, to extend the tenure of the current members of NEC and all the structures for 3 years, which 3 years would elapse on the 8th day or 7th day rather of next month.
And that's why they want to have elections on the 6th.
No, you don't do it
For
illegally.
you want to prolong the process.
Who said we don't want?
Power.
For us, we also want elections, but they must be.
Will your elections happen before the expiry of the current term of?
We have already taken a decision in the National Delegates Conference I held at Katonga to extend the current the tenure of the current leadership by 6 months, within which period
you will have organized the
elections.
Right, very quickly, any room for reconciliation, Honorable Erias Lukwago?
Any room
for reconciliation?
Reconciliation starts with one's conscience. If you concede, if you reflect, you reflect on what has transpired, what has happened, and you feel like you are remorseful, definitely the process starts from there. But if you have erred, you are in the wrong, and you insist and continue, and you are belligerent, you are recalcitrant, you are aggressive against those who are pointing out your commissions and omissions, then it makes the process of reconciliation a bit difficult. But we would gladly embrace it if our colleagues consider that indeed they have violated the Constitution, indeed they are culpable as far as that man is concerned, and they will never do it again, and so on and so forth. If all those issues, one or the other address, because we have always actually, if indeed they accepted the wrongs they had committed, the transgressions they have committed within the four corners of the political party premises or the meetings we have had before the matters became public, we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be where we are now.
All right, let's hear from the listeners. But even before we do that, someone will ask you, organizing meetings and so forth and running the party from Katonga, where are you getting the funding? Because the bank accounts of the party are still in the hands of Najana Nkumbi.
Allow me to take this opportunity to extend my sincere gratitude to the members of the party who have sacrificed their little savings to bankroll their activities. And allow me also use this opportunity to make a call to the members. If you feel that the mission we are on is legitimate, please don't hesitate to come out and support whatever we are doing.
All right. Very quickly, we have comments coming in from the listeners. Wilson writes in and says, Lukwago and Semuju have started what Lukwago did to Mao. Tribal inclination of wanting to have things Buganda. Amriat and Nandala are seen as foreign, the wise men from the east. That's a comment from Wilson there, who is listening to us. We have another comment. David writes in and says, if Ugandans are not yearning for political change, it should not be under the leadership of political hypocrites like Honorable Lukwago and Dr. Kiza Besigye. That's a comment from David. David again adds on, recently I heard Honorable Lukwago boasting of becoming a warlord. Is that what the Ugandan constitution advocates for? We have another comment. Thanks for the show. I'm very disappointed in Honorable Lukwago. You have your own weaknesses. You come from DP to kill our party. Why do you think you can solve FDC problems leaving your house burning? That's a comment there from another listener. And then that's Odong William writing in from Mutungo. Then we have another long one. Hello, Kenneth. Good evening. FDC has always been organizing grassroots elections, which has been long overdue. We have petitioned Najana Nkumbi leadership for Nandala as SG before to refill the structure up. Why? There was extension of 3 more years after the term of office of 5 years. Secondly, many districts have been created and carved out, which needed district, sub-county, parish, and village leadership, among others. So he concludes by saying, therefore, we believe in the new interim leadership of FDC as resolved up to have resolved recently to have a new roadmap for party grassroots building, which is long overdue. That is Edmond, who is a FDC party member since 2009. He's also a political science student. Hello, Radio 1, good evening from Ethiopia. Let us know, let it be known to the mayor that me as a Ugandan is always disappointed by whatever happens after elections. Opposition or NRM seem to me that as Ugandans, we seem to be using us as Ugandans. No difference between politicians and musicians. That is Opio Innocent with that comment. Kanene Johnson from Sironko. Honorable Lukwago, you claim that Dr. Besige's words that he told NRM, that he keeps telling NRM that they use propaganda. You now use the same word, like dirty money against people in charge because you want their positions. People who own this party come from villages, and we are ready to support our villagers. We know what you are doing, and we know you fear primaries. Well, this listener actually thinks that you fear primaries and you're trying to find a shortcut. Well, those are some of the comments coming in. We have another one. Councillor Iga Samuel Mary from Namulondo Weyogerere says, thanks for hosting Mr. Lukwago, the Lord Mayor. We really need people like him in this nation who are not easily bought, and let them not give up the struggle. Well, those are some of the comments that have come in, Lord Mayor. Very quickly, if you can respond to them. We have another one. Thanks, Radio 1. Thanks, the Lord Mayor, for sure being empathetic enough to members. Please just redeem the party, please. That's our party, not for individuals. We fought hard for it we fought hard for it. Let it be redeemed. Henry writes in and says, Lukwago is on track. If he can only come to NRM to help us breathe. We are suffocating in NRM. Lukwago to Yambe. Why don't you cross over to NRM if things are becoming difficult in FDC? Hi, thanks for the show. But why is Lukwago only in wars? Let him tell us what he has done in the past 10 years. That is Isaac Wanza there with that comment. Very quickly, Lord Mayor, if you can respond to some of these comments in 2 minutes.
All I have to say, I have great respect for free speech. And the members have, I'm sure they have expressed their legitimate concerns. All I can tell them, yes, I've listened to you. Those who are supporting what we are pursuing, what we are championing right now, and those who are opposed to the same. I respect your views. But the beauty with some of us, myself, I'm always driven by my conscience. In everything that I do, I'm guided by my conscience. Even before the heart comes in, it's the conscience. Do I believe what I'm doing is a legitimate cause, is the right thing? You can rubbish the truth, but as it is always said, and as it is written in the holy books, truth will set you free. Whether it's me who is causing trouble in the party, or whether it's me who caused the trouble in FDC, in DP, I think truth has set me free, with Mao consummating the marriage with the NRM at a colorful ceremony presided over by General Salim Saleh, sent by his brother Yuri Kaguta Museveni. Whether it's me causing trouble in the FDC, the truth will set me free. So for me, I always believe, and the reason why we have always been triumphant in a very matter like this, it's because we resiliently pursue what we believe is true. So basically, that's all I have to say about the comments made, especially those that were critical of my position and approach.
All right, with that, we come to the end of the discussion today. Thank you very much for making time to be with us. Honorable Erias Lukwago, acting president of the Katonga faction of the FDC party.
Of the FDC, not Katonga faction, of the FDC, please.